I'm going to win this. I feel like I can do it and I'm going to win this. I had no idea what it involved, but I had been like so obsessed with doing this. And this is a promise that I made to myself 8 years prior. And so when the race started, I was talking to you about all these hours spent hiking in the snow. I would do it and I would certainly not enjoy it, but I would not be bothered by it, you know? I was like so dead set on moving forward. Then I was emotionless. I was like a robot. I was just like driven by the
Yeah, you were
obsession of moving
programmed.
completely. I was
Wow.
unstoppable. I was like
Wow.
for at least the first few days. I mean, this was so important for me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. I'm your host, Juliana. Hey, everyone. At Zone to Speak, I know how important it is to stay healthy, strong, and ready for every ride, workout, and adventure. That's why I'm sharing some amazing discounts on products I personally love, designed to support your health, performance, and overall well-being, whether you are an athlete or just looking to feel your best. Cyc Plus, their smart pump, is a game changer. Compact, efficient, and perfect for keeping your tires road and gravel ready. It's ideal for travel too. You can take it on trips and skip the CO2 canisters. You can even change your tire pressure on the go when switching between surfaces like road and gravel. Get 10% off the smart pump and 5% off everything else. 15% off New Zest. Fuel your body with clean, plant-based nutrition. Their Clean Lean Protein provides a high-quality, easily digestible protein source with no additional additives, perfect for recovery and sustained energy. Plus, their Good Green Vitality is packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to support your immune system and overall wellness. 15% off Oleos. Oleos offers powerful wellness shots made with adaptogens, nootropics, and functional nutrients to support performance, focus, and recovery. I'll be using Oleos daily in the lead up to my next race, and I have already got my pre- and post-ride shots ready for my long weekend rides. If you are looking for a clean, effective boost, Oleos is it. Use code ZONE2SPEAK15 to save 15%. 20% off First Endurance. Top-tier endurance nutrition designed to support hydration, recovery, and sustained energy for long days on the bike and any endurance activity. 15% off Frey Skincare, made for active lifestyles. Designed for skin that sweats, their all-natural, vegan, and cruelty-free products keep your skin protected and fresh. I have been using Frey for about 10 years, and my skin stays young and has never had a breakout since. 10% off Cold Age, high-quality supplement to support your health, from multivitamins to probiotics, collagen, and more. I personally take the Women's Fermented Multivitamin and Creatine, and I genuinely feel great with them. No nausea, just steady energy and support for recovery and daily health. 10% off Clearly Not Coffee, a delicious coffee alternative from functional ingredients like mushrooms, cocoa, maca, cinnamon, and rhodiola, designed to give you calmer energy, sharper focus, and immune support. Honestly, I can't live without it anymore. It's been such a boost for my energy levels and has helped me navigate perimenopause with more balance and ease. 15% off Ombre Supplements, premium supplement to support your training, recovery, and everyday health. And there's something special from me, your host. As a certified integrative health and nutrition expert and holistic life coach, I'm offering 25% off personalized nutrition and life coaching with Genki Wellness. If you want to optimize your health, improve your energy, and feel your best, head to bemoregenki.com. For all discounts, check out the episode description, use code ZONE2SPEAK at checkout, and let these incredible products support your health and performance. Now, let's get into the episode. In the world of ultracycling, a few names command as much respect as Sofiane Sehili, known for his relentless drive, minimal sleep, and unmatched mental resilience. Sofiane has conquered some of the most grueling ultracycling races on the planet. From winning the Tour Divide in 2022 to clinching 3 consecutive victories at the Silk Road Mountain Race, his achievements are a testament to human endurance and determination. But Sofiane's journey is as fascinating as his victories. Starting as a bike messenger in Paris, he transitioned into ultracycling racing, driven by a passion for exploration and a desire to push his limits. Now based in the southwest of France, Sofiane continues to inspire with his adventures and insights into the world of ultracycling. In this episode, I will dive into Sofiane's incredible journey, exploring the mindset, strategies, and stories behind his legendary status and his latest victory at Gravelbirds. Sofiane, welcome to Zone to Speak.
Hey, Juliana. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for being here. I always feel like you're such a mystery man. So I'm so happy to have you here and have a little chat. So how did your experience as a bike messenger in Paris influence, if any influence, in your transition into ultracycling?
I think it gave me the keys to uh, um, the thing that you have to understand about being a bike messenger in a city like Paris is that you have to go to work every day, no matter what. You have to get on your bike in the morning, whether it's raining, snowing. It doesn't snow a lot in Paris, but it happens. But like any weather, you have to go out there. You have to do your job. It doesn't stop because it's windy or rainy or super cold, and it's pretty intense with a lot of traffic. Sometimes it's really fun. Like I love this job, but other times, I mean, when you do it in the summer, for me, I was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. It's so much fun. But sometimes it's really a drag, of course. Like I have many memories of like December. It's dark at 5 p.m. and you have to go home in the freezing rain when everybody else is going home. All the cars. It's dark. You're just blinded by the headlights to the cars. Yeah, it's like definitely not as fun as a nice summer day of bicycle couriering, but it teaches you that yeah, you have to keep going no matter what. It helps you build that resilience, and it's maybe something that I didn't have as a bike tourer. When you're bike touring, if you wake up and it's raining, and it's still the case today. Like if I'm just on a bike tour and I wake up and it's raining, I'm just gonna wait it out. I'm just gonna wait for the rain to stop, and if I have to take like half a day of rest, I'll take a half a day of rest. But yeah, when you're a bike messenger, you can't really like call your boss and say, "Hey, sorry, I'm not gonna go to work today because this is foul weather and I don't enjoy it."
Yeah. Yeah. I lived in New York and I had a friend who was a bike messenger. And I remember once he was saying that he actually had to carry a human eye.
Oh, whoa,
Yeah, for to the hospital
wow,
for a transplant. So I mean, there are so many stories of bike messengers. It's really, really incredible. And yeah, I can't imagine I think Paris and New York are similar in that way of fighting the traffic.
yeah. I
I
never I
wasn't a
never carried a human eye. I did carry oftentimes like blood samples and dental prosthetics.
Wow. Yeah.
So
So
we
kind of
do we
similar.
do
It's
work. Yeah,
serious
we,
stuff
yeah,
that
yeah,
you're,
we do
yeah.
work. We do work a lot with the medical world. I mean, they need things fast, and we're there to deliver them.
Read somewhere or heard somewhere that you also did some before starting your ultra racing career. You went to Asia as well and did some bike touring there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it all started. When I was around, I think I was 29 or 28, something like that, and I had this lifelong dream since I was probably teenager, around 17 or 18, something like that, of visiting Southeast Asia. It's hard to pinpoint exactly why this part of the world, but I'd been fascinated by Southeast Asia and attracted to this region for a long, long time. And I always knew that someday I would go. And I was just waiting for the right moment. So the right moment is, well, basically when I was not studying, when I was not working, just I needed for the stars to align. And then at some point, it was not like exactly the perfect moment, but I get kind of tired of waiting for that perfect moment, and I was like, okay, I need to go now. The exact story is, so I spent a year away from Paris, and then I get back to Paris, and it can be quite hard to actually find a place to live in the city. So I would go through some uh, some ads trying to find a place to live, and I found this cheap apartment in a quiet neighborhood that somebody was renting for just like 3 or 4 months because they were going on a motorbike tour in India. And I rented this apartment through the winter, and I was out of a job at this time, and I got pretty bored actually of just spending the winter in this quiet neighborhood of Paris near the Eiffel Tower. I think it would be a really good place for tourists, but it's not such a good place when you're actually a Parisian. And during that winter, I was like, why am I like here when this guy is like riding a motorbike in India where it's like sunny and warm? And I was like, and I told myself, you know what? Next year I won't be here. I'll be the one that is away in a warm country, tropical weather, and I'll finally achieve this lifelong dream of going away on a long trip in Southeast Asia. And at that time, I had like a very faint experience of what it's like to bike tour for a couple days.
Wow.
I was a keen like urban cyclist. I would always ride places in Paris. I would like ride when I had a job. I would ride to work. Sometimes even like doing 15 to 20 kilometers to get to work, or if friends had a party somewhere like really way outside of the city, I wouldn't be afraid of riding like 20 or 30K. But I was not like an avid cyclist, that goes out for like 100Ks on the weekend. But people were asking me, since they always saw me riding my bike, "Oh, when you gonna go to on your trip? Are you gonna ride a bike? Are you gonna ride a bike?" And I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't want to like leave for Southeast Asia with a bike and then feel like I'm obligated to cycle when this has never really been my dream, you know?
Yeah.
And so I got there. I started. I had a backpack, and I was already traveling super light. Like people are always amazed by how light I travel whenever I bike tour. But even when I was just backpacking, I was like so light. I mean, I immediately, as soon as I started traveling, I learned how to pack like the bare minimum. And I started hopping on buses, trains, tuk-tuks. I had my Lonely Planet. I would check the schedules. I would,
And where did you go first?
so I landed at Bangkok, and then I made my
Nice.
way up north, all the way to the Laos border in Nong Khai, across the border. So Vientiane is just like right on the other side of the border. I stayed a little bit in Vientiane, and I felt like I was not really getting the experience that I was looking for. That it all seemed like too on the beaten track. So I
Mm.
decided to get a bus to a place called Luang Nam Tao, which is all the way up north in Laos near the Chinese border. And that bus was supposed to take 12 hours to get there, and it actually took like 24 hours. It was
Wow.
like a nightmare trip. I got on the bus. It was supposed to leave around 2 p.m. It left at 5 p.m. for reasons that we never really understood. And then after like 1 hour on the road, the tire exploded. It took
Oh no.
a couple of hours to change the tire. And then it was quite flat at the beginning. And then the next day, when we were like really in the mountains, and there were like long steep climbs, the bus had to stop like every 30 minutes because the engine was overheating. So they had to find water to like drop buckets of water on the engine to make sure
My
that it
gosh, what a
was
nightmare.
constantly. Yeah. And there was, I think, only one driver for the whole trip, and he had to make sure that he would not fall asleep when driving us. So all through the night, he was playing like really loud pop music, and nobody cared. Everybody was sleeping. I couldn't sleep because of the loud music. I was sitting all the way in the back of the bus. I had like people leaning on me sleeping. I was like,
Oh
this is
man.
wild.
Oh
This is
man.
like really wild. I'm like, okay. So after that trip, I'm like, okay, this happened. I get that maybe in a few years I will laugh about this, but I just can't keep doing that.
You'll
And
be faster on a bike.
so I bought a bike. I
Yeah.
bought like a secondhand bike from a rental shop, and that's how it all started. Like in Laos, and I think that was around 14 or 15 years ago now. Bought this secondhand mountain bike in a rental shop, and I started bike touring, and I never looked back.
Amazing. Wow. Wow. And then from this amazing tour in Southeast Asia, when was your first ultra cycling race? Can you share a little bit about that story? What drew you
Yeah,
to this demanding sport?
it was it was 6 years after my first bike touring trip. So some people like discover bike touring or cycling, and then they immediately get into ultra. I was not really that kind of guy. I was really content to ride my bike for 100 kilometers at a time on nice paved roads, and I mean, all of my early bikepacking trips were in Southeast Asia, so pretty easy. There's lots of places where you can eat,
The
find
food.
yeah, really good food, cheap hotels. So it was like really leisurely bike touring, not too many kilometers, and so I was really content to do that for a while. And then I think it was a mix of that experience and becoming a bike messenger. And when I became a bike messenger, it was the first time that I was riding with people, that I was among cyclists, and it was the first time that I actually understood that I had some above average physical abilities especially in terms of endurance. Speed, yes, I was among the fastest, but I can't say that I was the fastest, but I was definitely among the fastest. But endurance for sure. Like I could go on and on and on and on when others were getting tired. And then it kind of created an itch, you know. I was like, okay, I think I might be good at that. And I went to Canada to take on the Great Divide mountain bike route. I I was a bike messenger at that time, so I asked for I think it was like 3 weeks of paid leave and an extra week of unpaid leave, so that I could tackle the whole route in one go. But it was still like I had 30 days, which is still actually qualifies as if you ride the road in 30 days, it qualifies like a race finish. You know, it means you're yeah around like double the time of the winner, so it's considered like a race pace, which I had no idea about at that time. I was like, for me, I was like, fit 30 something year old bike messenger, used to ride for 400K a week, and I was out there on a bike tour just to discover this route that has fascinated me for a long time, that I'd been curious to ride. And I would meet like other tours, and it would be like, oh, okay, so you only have 1 month to do the whole thing. And for me, I was like, well, yeah, it's okay. It's just like 150K a day, you know? And they're
Wow,
like,
that's it.
well, that's a lot. And I was like, yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, it's just what I have, and I want to do the whole thing, so that's what I'll do.
Yeah,
And then I
sometimes when
realized,
you go blinded and you don't overthink, I mean, it's still a big task, but if you don't overthink and just do it, it's
yeah, and that's what I did. And then that's when I realized that, I mean, maybe I could give it a go, like seriously as a racer. I So that was 2014, and I kind of wanted to go back the next year, but I injured myself training for it. So I was in 2016. So that was my first ever backpacking race, which coincidentally was also my first ever bike race. So I never
Wow.
like, and I managed to finish third. It was
Wow.
fairly encouraging results. I was like, okay, even though I messed up a lot, even though I made a ton of mistakes, even though I had no idea what I was doing, I still managed to finish third.
There's
So I think,
something there.
yeah, if I keep at it, I can go back and I can finish first. And that's how I got into this sport of bikepacking. I think it was a little bit by accident because at that time in 2016, it was the landscape of ultra cycling was definitely not the same. There was only just a few races, maybe five or
Yeah.
six, and you weren't really getting into that sport as a sport. You were getting into that. Okay, I want to do this race, and then yeah, that's nice. That these are my goals, and then I'll do whatever I want with my life that is unrelated to these endeavors. But as I got more seriously into this, the sports developed, and I kept doing races. I mean, a lot of the races that I was doing, they were kind of like to get experience, to be better, and win Tour de Divide someday. And this is how I ended up becoming an ultra professional ultra cyclist.
Incredible. I love your story. And, talking about Tour Divide, your win in 2022 is a monumental achievement. What were the key factors that you think you contributed to your success in this race from your first race in 2016, you said? So 4 years later, well, no,
Six.
6 years earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I followed the race quite closely. I started following it actually after my first Great Divide. So I've been following it for about 10 years, and I also heard about previous tour divides when I started getting interested in that event. And what I can say about 2022 is that it was weather-wise one of the worst years ever
Yeah.
in the history of tour divide.
Yeah.
So basically, it started with pretty much all of the passes from Canada to Wyoming being snowed in.
That's a lot of kilometers.
Yeah, that would require. I mean, I made the calculation afterwards when I was over the snow. It required sometimes like 30 minutes of hiking, sometimes 1 hour, one time like 2.5 hours of hiking. And in the end, I think I totaled around just 10 hours of pushing my bike post holing in
Oh
the
my
snow to
God.
cover all of the snowed in passes. Then as soon as I cleared all of these snowed in passes, I hit the Wyoming Great Basin, which is infamous for its winds. And the thing is, the headwind that supposedly stops when you reach Colorado, it didn't. So I had to cross the Great Basin of Wyoming and then pretty much all of Colorado with a headwind. And believe me, that's many kilometers and that's a few days. And when I finally cleared Colorado and hit New Mexico, I was hit by an early monsoon. It's kind of rare that it rains in New Mexico like end of June. It usually rains around like mid July, but and like they were like in the middle of a drought. They had fires. It hadn't rained for a while, and then as soon as I hit New Mexico, it started raining like crazy, and I got caught in in a stretch of the route that is usually avoided by Tour Divide because it's subject to flash floods and peanut butter mud,
Oh no.
and it was included on this year's route because it was like so dry that they felt that there was absolutely no risk that it was gonna rain. And of course, as soon as I got there, it started raining.
Oh
So I
man.
was unlucky to hit some what they call death mud and a few sketchy river crossings because as soon as it starts raining, yeah, there these dry riverbeds they the water like doesn't really gets in the soil. It just like slides on the really non-porous clay, and then all of that water it has to go somewhere at sometimes, and so that's why there's a possibility of flash floods there. And that it did rain a lot during my crossing of New Mexico. So basically, I had very few days where I could like enjoy like nice weather and easy going, you know. And I
Yeah.
think that the key to my victory there is that so it was my third attempt at Tour Divide, and I had already a pretty successful career in bike packing, but for me it didn't really like that. All of these successes didn't really mean anything if they weren't tied to a victory on Tour Divide, because Tour Divide is the reason that I got into the sport. And when I got into the sport, I didn't like get into it saying, I'm gonna be a successful bikepacker. I'm gonna like win this and this. I was like, one day I'm gonna win Tour Divide. This is like I
You
told,
just had this tunnel vision then. You just really
yeah,
like,
exactly. And
this is
and
it.
and it's
Nothing's gonna stop you.
and it's funny because it's kind of ridiculous, because when I told that to myself, I I had no idea that what I was capable of, and that I could actually, and that I would eventually win Tour Divide. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna win this. I feel like I can do it, and I'm gonna win this. I had no idea what it involved, but I had been like so obsessed with doing this, and this is a promise that I made to myself 8 years prior. And so when the race started, I was talking to you about all these hours spent hiking in the snow. I would do it, and I would certainly not enjoy it, but I would not be bothered by it. I was like so dead set on moving forward. Then I was like, an, I was emotionless. I was like a robot. I was just like driven by the
Yeah, you were
obsession of moving
programmed.
forward completely. I was
Wow.
I was unstoppable. I was like
Wow.
for at least the first few days. I mean, this was so important for me. I was like, okay, I'm here, and you have to understand that, to go to Canada to race Tour Divide, this is a big commitment. This is a big commitment in terms of the time that you're gonna spend,
Time,
yeah,
financial,
the energy that
emotional.
you're gonna spend, obviously the money, as you said, it's financially a big commitment. And I was like, okay, this is my third time here. Every time it takes, yeah, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy. I have to make it count. I don't want to have to go back like a fourth time, a fifth time. Like this time is the time. And especially like, because the more you go, the less fun you have. Because
Yeah.
let's be honest, you start knowing these places pretty well, and some of these places on Tour Divide, I'm sorry to say, they can be quite dull. Uh,
Very isolated, right?
Very isolated, not always very diverse, and sometimes quite barren. And yeah, I mean, if you people have been to the States, or if they've only just seen movies, they can really imagine like these really long, wide gravel roads that seem like never ending, and you ride there, and sometimes it takes 8, 9, 10 hours for the landscape to change. And it's like, in a way, it's fascinating, but when you've been there 3 or 4 times, it gets less and less fascinating. I mean, to me, I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's a general thing. Some people do Tour Divide every year and they love it, and to each their own. For me, I need, I think, more diversity, more variety, and at some points it's just like, I was like, okay, I have to make it count. And so I was unstoppable for the first few days. As soon as I would see the snow, I would hop off my bike and would start pushing, just never stopping. And and then, yeah, after probably a week or so, when I reached Wyoming, I had a good lead, and then it was just a matter of making sure that I would keep moving to keep that lead, and make it to the finish in first place. But But honestly, it was hard. I have very few good memories of that ride because it was so taxing with the weather. And and sadly, as I said, New Mexico went through a drought and they had fires. So the New Mexican part of Tour Divide was shortened, which is a shame because it's probably my favorite. And I missed some of the really really nice spots that I like on Tour Divide. But yeah, in the end, I made it, and I don't I don't like to use the word dream because I don't. For me, I like to make a distinction between a dream and an ambition. For me, a dream is something that you don't necessarily works toward with. It's something that you dream of it. Oh, it would be nice if it happened. Whereas an
Right.
ambition is like, okay, you put your mind to it, and you
Yeah.
go,
You
and
set the
you
goal.
set the goal, and you work hard, and then so I would not say that it was a dream, but it was an ambition, and I finally did it, and I was like, okay, now that it's done, I don't have to go back.
I was gonna ask, yeah, when you finished and you won, was that all that you expected that you would feel? And then what did you think of, like, okay, what's next now?
Yeah, so winning. I think people that experience winning in different ways. Listeners might imagine that when an athlete wins something, it feels like tremendous achievement and it fills him with incredible joy. It's not really the case for me, you know. For all of my well, not all of my wins, but all of my big wins, I I did feel that, like, that spark of really very intense joy, but it usually lasts like maybe a few seconds, and then it's just, for me, it's that feeling is more about mission accomplished, you know, because I set out to do that stuff, and I feel like I have what it takes to achieve it, and if I don't, it's a failure. But if I do, it's just like how things are supposed to be, you know?
Got it.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I'm like unhappy or indifferent. I'm just saying that I'm not ecstatic for days,
Right.
I do
Yeah.
I do usually, like, yeah, whenever I see the end, like before the last, like, 300 or 400 meter, and you can see the end and you know that it's done,
It's like you
then yeah.
check the box. You put that goal, you check the box, feels good, and then
Yes, yes, of course, it does. It does feel good, but it's not something that I feel ecstatic about. I'm very happy that it happened, but I think that, well, one thing that your listeners have to understand about ultra and about bikepacking is that the joy of winning lasts for just a few seconds, but the joy of riding, it lasts for days because you're out there for days, and during these days you're gonna experience many and many many hours of just being like really really happy that you're out there doing your thing.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I haven't won any ultra cycling race, but I did a lot of gravel race. And when I was racing a lot, some of the gravel races, they weren't as popular as is now, and it wasn't as fast. So I think that's why I had the chance on the podium a few times. But my experience was kind of a similar. Of course, it felt good, but riding the bike was the bigger joy. And on ultra cycling, for me, I felt that when I'm enjoying, especially that I do a lot of pairing with Juliet, I just have the most fun. For me, that's the best part, being together with my cycling BFF. Yeah, it's definitely, for me, it's the high. I'm just listening you say walking 10 hours on snow passes. It's incredible, the mental resilience that you have of setting this goal and nothing is gonna stop you. I really applaud that. It's not anyone that has it, obviously. Otherwise, there would be many other people, not sleeping and going through all these gnarly races. Speaking of gnarly races, Silk Road. What kept you going back to the Silk Road? What is so special about that? And you won that 3 years on a row, right?
I did, which always every time I hear that, it seems unreal.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, yeah, it's true.
It's like, what?
I'm like, really, 3 times Stick Road in a row? Wow, okay. It seems because yeah, I of course I did it, but it took me obviously it took me 3 years to do it, which is a long time, and then it just takes like a second to say why. It's a good question. The answer is twofold. First of all, I just love it out there. Kyrgyzstan is a magical place. Kyrgyzstan is amazingly beautiful. If you like mountains, and I think if you like bikes, there's a good chance that you like mountains, or maybe I should say, if you're human, there's a good chance that you like mountains, because I can't really imagine that you could be human and not be moved by the beauty of mountainous landscape. And yeah, it is some of the most beautiful mountains in the world, I think. And it is also a special place in that the people there, they live like they've been living for centuries. They take their yurts, they leave the valley in the summer to go to the green pastures at elevation, and they take their sheep, their horses, and they just leave their lives in their yurts without electricity, without phones, without cars sometimes. And it's just like a very simple life. And you travel in space to get to Kyrgyzstan, and then you're there and you feel like you've also traveled in time, because you witness the way of life that is centuries old, that hasn't changed since I don't even know when. And I like to go there and tour a little bit before to acclimatize to elevation, but also like to just like enjoy the country and get into its rhythm and have the time to do something more than just racing. And I go there, and I either ride to the start, or I just bike tour and then go back to Bishkek if the race starts in Bishkek. And yeah, I stay in yurts, and here I am, and I don't have any cell reception, and I go to bed early, and I read a book, and I'm like away from all the modern distractions that we have in our Western societies. And it's just like it's an amazing trip, and people there are like some of the most hospitable that you can imagine. And it's just a beautiful, magical place, and this is why I kept going back, because every time I was there, I I experienced like the intense joy of feeling that I have some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, and I have them all to myself, because obviously all of the places that are very mountainous are scarcely populated.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's just like riding out there completely by yourself. There's not a single living soul for tens of kilometers. And it's just like that. And it's something that I always chase when I'm on the bike. It's that feeling of being alone in the world. And yeah, and I mean, I often make that comparison, that when you go somewhere to experience beauty that has been created by man, like if you go to Florence, or if you go to Paris, or if you go to some of the main attractions that I went to in Southeast Asia, like Angkor Wat, you see some beautiful stuff, but you don't really have that luxury of having them all to yourself. And it's kind of hard for me to like really focus on the emotions that beauty can generate in your heart and your soul, if you have kind of the noise and visual pollution of having other tourists taking pictures and chatting. And like, of course, it's beautiful to see Florence, but you're seeing it with hundreds of thousands of people, which kind of ruins the experience for me. Whereas when you're out there by yourself in Kyrgyzstan, it's just like it's just there for me, only me, and I feel like it's just the best. It's just the best. And then the second reason why I kept going is because the first time that I went, of course I won, but it was a hard fought battle with punctures and mechanicals. I had a great experience, but I didn't feel like I went as fast as I could. And then the second time that I went, as I said, I like to tour the course before, and I decided to do it. But I had raced Tour de Vide just a month prior, and I was still, I think, fairly tired from that. And while touring prior to the start, I got ill, and I recovered just in time to be able to start the race, but I didn't like recover fully. So when I started the race, I was definitely not 100%. So I took it really easy for the first 2 3 days, just to make sure that I would stay in contention. And then as I felt that I'd gotten better and that illness was behind me, I was able to step on it and take the lead, and I was able to hold on to that lead all the way to the finish. But again, after the race, I felt like I didn't give in the race my best effort. That it didn't go as well as I wanted it to go. And so I decided to go back for a
Third
third
time.
year and be like, okay, maybe this time I won't be ill, and I won't have mechanicals, and I will be able to give my best. I was really keen on giving it my best and see how fast I could be on this course.
Amazing. Well, you just made me really want to go now there. Not for the
That's
race,
beautiful.
but
Yeah,
for bike packing. I would love
yeah.
to. I'm planning Southeast Asia. I haven't done that on a bike. I really want to go Southeast Asia for the food and it's affordable. But like you said, I just also love the solitude and just really be it's just a feeling that I mean you said it so beautifully, but it's so hard to describe, when you are in nature without many people, and especially, like you're describing the villages there and then how people are still living the same way for so many generations and so many years. It sounds really, really magical. Love to experience. So I'll put that on my ambition list. How about life beyond racing? When you are not racing, what does a typical day look like for you? How do you balance training, recovery, and your personal time?
Well, as I said, I'm a professional ultra-cyclist now. I've been for, I think it's my fifth year now. It's a pretty good life. There's no routine. I mean, as you said in your introduction, I now live in the southwest of France. This is a fairly recent change. I moved from Paris about a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago now. So now that I live here, like I would say, typical day for me. Like I wake up, since I'm not an office worker and I don't have like a tight schedule. I can take my time in the morning. I usually do take my time in the morning. I like to do a little crossword puzzles before I take my breakfast, and I have my coffee. Sometimes I make bread, not in the morning, but before, and then I eat it in the morning, and then it's just gonna depend on if I have things that I need to work on in the house, which happens quite a lot since I moved, or if I have, for example, calls that I need to do with the sponsors, or and then I go usually train in the afternoon. I don't build like endurance over my riding around my house. If I have to go for really long rides, I like to like plan either like a week long trip or a weekend, like 3 days. I I will leave from my house. Would We have mountains that are kind of close by, like a day riding, and I get to the mountains. So I ride one day in the flats. Towards the end of the day, I'll start climbing. and then I'll ride one day in the mountains, and I'll go back home. And that's like, if I need to do long rides, I'd much rather do that than just like leave my house early morning, go for 250, and then go back home. So whenever I train around my house, it's going to be more like intensity. I'm going to go for 100K tops, and sometimes and oftentimes I'm going to go for 50, 60, 70, and just try to push hard on the pedals. And then yeah,
And do you work with a coach at all, or you're doing your own
no,
thing?
no, I don't work with a coach. I don't think I'm really into it. I
Yeah, well, you got the recipe right, so why change it?
Yeah, and it's as I said, there's no real routine, because that's what's gonna happen sometimes, and then I'm gonna have to travel for a sponsor, or I'm gonna just go on a bikepacking weekend with my girlfriend, or then the racing season is gonna start, and then it's gonna be more about recovering between races than actually training, and it's just, I tried it. I tried having a coach. Then I found out that when you have a coach and you start focusing on your numbers a lot, I mean, for me at least, it takes some of the joy out of the ride.
Yeah,
And I'm like, when I had a coach, I would go, and I would try to be very diligent in staying in the power zones that he prescribed, and then I would spend too much time looking at my computer, and not enough time like enjoying nature. And for me, bike riding is still and will always be about enjoying being outside. And so I was like, okay, this is not really working out. This is not working out because I'm too hard to coach, because I'm always somewhere doing something. I'm like, yeah, sometimes I don't have a car. I live in the countryside without a car.
me
I
too.
go,
Yay.
yeah,
Love it. Just bike or
yeah,
walk?
it's great. Yeah, it's great. And so yeah, it's like I don't like the constraints, that having a coach actually comes with. And I do my thing. I probably would be a bit faster if I had some structured training, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
You're doing well.
I still win races, so
Yeah.
as long as it works,
Yeah, I think,
I'll do it.
everyone needs to find what works for them. And even for me, I do have a coach and I like that because I like my routine and I like the structure, but once in a while I do have to say like I just want free riding. I can't just also be looking and I just want to get on my bike and ride. I don't want to think about anything. And you talked a little bit about your sponsors and you're sometimes on the road. How do you make gear choices? How do you think your sponsors contribute to your performance? Sorry, it's a little bit loaded question.
I feel like packing is a discipline where a lot of things work. You know, a lot of things work, and it comes down to what you do with the things you're given. You know, and it's something that's what really nice about ultra and bike packing is like, if you look at the races and if you look at the winners, yeah, you're gonna find carbon bikes, you're gonna find steel, titanium, alloy. All of the bikes are there. If you if you look at the if you follow dot watchers on Instagram and you look at their posts about, rigs of this race and that race, sometimes it's just wild, all the setups you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, anything actually works. One by, two by. Some people are like very specific about what they want. Some people is like total like gear nerds.
Yeah.
I'm not really that type. I like bikes. I take care of my bikes. I build them. I maintain them. I like them. I like putting in the work and being my own mechanic. But in the end, I mean, I'll ride with I'll find I'll find joy in whatever bike I'm riding. It's in the end, when you're out there and you're riding in the landscape that you love, and you're enjoying that great feeling of being one with nature and not having any pollution that acts as a filter between you and the outside, and you're really present in the moment, and you're just like really happy of seeing what you see, and you're pedaling. You don't really think of the kind of bike you're riding, you know? You don't really think of like if you're riding like one by or two by, 11 or 12 speed, like what kind of tires do you have, and do you have a suspension or not? I mean, no, no, you're just like happy to be there, happy to be outside, happy to be riding your bike. And I mean, I started bike touring, as I said, with a secondhand rental bike
Yeah.
from a shop in Laos. And I bought it for $100. So you can imagine how beat up it was and how bad it was to start with.
Yeah.
And it was terrible, and it started falling apart after just 3 days. But still, it was riding a bike, and it introduced me to that life. Even if it was a shitty bike, it was still very enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I don't really pay much attention to that kind of stuff.
I like that. Because also for me, when I'm riding a bike, it makes me feel like I'm a kid again. And when you're a
Yeah.
kid, you don't care. You just want to ride your bike. It's just such a good feeling. But you said you survive with the minimum. Is there anything in this minimal that you need that you can share that you always have with you? Like this one thing that can be missed?
There's like one luxury item that I will always travel with, and that will always be in my frame bag, except when I'm racing. Because when I'm racing, then it's like really, really like the minimum that I need to survive. But whenever I'm bike touring, even if I'm just leaving for a couple days, I always have my e-reader with me, because I like to read before I go to sleep.
Oh,
And
do you sleep?
well, not when I race, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's just like racing is just a little bit of my time spent on the bike. But I do bike tour a lot, and I always bring my e-reader. Always happy to read a little bit before I go to bed, and I think that's probably the one thing that most people don't carry when they go out for a bikepacking trip, and that I will always take with me.
yeah. That's something I need to look into it. When we go bike touring, I'm always thinking of the weight,
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, I don't want to carry a book, so I should
yeah,
look into one of those devices.
yeah. They're really neat. Actually, that's I started 15 years ago because, as I said, I love to read, and so during my first trip, I brought a few books, but it was a 3 months long trip. So you can read many books in 3 months.
Yes.
So I brought a few books, and I would read them, and then I would obviously leave them somewhere, because once they're written, I don't want to carry the weight for nothing.
Yeah.
And then when I read them all, I started to pick up books like in guest houses, and it's just not the same, because you have like a very narrow choice, and you end up reading books that are not that good. And then I was like, okay, I need to find a better solution. And then I looked at Kobo and Kindle, and I was like, yeah, that's the perfect thing, because I can carry like an entire library, and it just weighs like 150 grams. And so I didn't have an e-reader for my first ever trip, but as for my second one, I was like, yeah, I'll buy one, and I've always had one since then.
Great idea. I'm going to look into it. We just met at Gravel Bird, so just want to touch quickly on this. It's your second time going to Portugal. What brought you back, and how was your experience at Gravel Birds?
I had a really nice time. My first event in Portugal, which was the Goats in 2022. It was the end of a long season for me, so I showed up with just the intention of finishing. Mm. riding riding all day and maybe part of the night, but stopping every night to get at least like 6 to 8 hours sleep. So not really touring, but kind of like fast touring. And it was great. I loved it. I love Portugal. I like that Mediterranean feeling, where life seems pretty slow, and I like all these. I like the fact that any village is gonna have a cafe, a bar, and that it's gonna be open no matter what, and people are gonna be there. And sometimes it's a really small village, but still there's like two bars, and
Yeah.
and both bars have people in there, and you're like, whoa, okay, this is not like that where I'm from. And I like that kind of atmosphere. And as I said, I like that feeling of being alone. And I feel like Portugal, as soon as you go off the coast and you go inland, it's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what I experienced during gravel birds in Alentejo. People don't know Alentejo. It's south of Portugal. It's not extreme south, because extreme south is like the southern tip is Algarve, but Alentejo is like right north of Algarve, and it's in surface, it's in area, it's like 30% of Portugal, and in population, it's not even 10%. I think it's around 7%. So it's pretty big, and it's pretty empty, and that's something that's not easy to find in Europe. And so
Yeah.
this is why I liked it so much, because your Portugal is a gravel paradise. There's like crazy amount of gravel roads. I've never seen anything like it anywhere else in Europe. There's like gravel roads everywhere, and there's oftentimes they're quite smooth, and that's why I had a lot of fun on gravel birds. Because yeah, not many people good gravel. The one thing about Portugal, it's steep. They like to make their road like really steep, so
Yeah.
you need to be prepared for that. And
Yeah.
at some point, it gets a bit tiring, but it's a great place for gravel riding.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, my husband, Miguel, who was also gravel birds, he's Portuguese. So we spent a lot of time there and we have done a lot of bike packing together. And yeah, I can't get tired of Alentejo.
Yeah.
It's just so nice. And you describe it perfectly as it is. So I just have a few final rapid fire questions.
All right.
BV or hotel?
Hotel.
Croissant or pain au chocolat?
Pain au chocolat, but here we say chocolatine.
Chocolate, yes. Climbs or descents?
Climbs.
Music or silence while riding?
Music.
Sunrise ride or sunset spin?
Sunset.
Bucket list country to ride in?
Mongolia. Chile. Um Algeria. Philippines, and that's pretty much it.
Nice. Well, I'm planning Philippines next year.
Nice.
Most epic, this can be real, quote unquote, race moment.
Whoa. I should prepare for these kind of questions, because I've been in so many
It's
races.
okay if you're not ready. We can skip it.
All right, let's skip it. I'll come back to it afterwards. I'll think. I'll
Okay.
try to think of something.
One word that describes ultracycling.
Hard.
One.
It is.
It is, yeah.
It works for
Well,
anyone. Anyone will tell you it's hard. So
yeah, that's true. Well, that's all I have. It's been a pleasure. I'm so happy to chat with you.
yeah, I'm just trying to find
Yeah,
an
I can
answer
see
to
you
that.
thinking.
What's the question exactly again?
Most epic, quote unquote, this can't be real race moment.
This can't be real. Well, there's several ways to interpret that, but it's probably not going to be the right answer, but it's the
There's
one
no
that
wrong answer.
that pops into my like right away. But towards the end of gravel birds, so as I described Alentejo, it's it's pretty empty, very rural. Lots of not lots of them, but a few small villages where there's gonna be a bar. There's also gonna be like a bench with 2 or 3 old people sitting on it, sometimes silently, sometimes talking, sometimes they're just like looking at you. And so you can imagine that like that atmosphere of like very quiet, authentic, rural, century-old Alentejo. And so I was riding there, and I was getting like really close to the end of the course. It was dark, and in the dark, I see like this really big building, and I'm like, what is that? And I see flags, and it's windy, and I see the flags floating in the air, and it's just like, and then there's like a lot of gravel leading to this, and then I moved from gravel to cobblestones, and it's a downhill, and and it's like a massive hotel, and it's just a hotel. It looks like a big like hotel complex with several buildings, and it's like right there in the middle of Alentejo, and you're like, what is that? And it's funny because it's not really the first time that this happens to me during a race, but sometimes, especially at night during a race, when you've been riding for a few days, or you sleep deprived, and you're kind of used to that grind of like being on gravel in fields or forests, and just like in nature. And whenever you see something that is man-made, it's usually very modest or very agricultural, and it's an old building. And then you're like, yeah, what is that? Where am I? It's like I've been taken away from the place that I had been riding for like 40 hours, and brought to something like completely different that like really doesn't belong here. And it's just like, of course I didn't go into the hotel, but I stopped there because I stopped in front of the hotel because I needed to arrange some stuff in my bags, and look for some food in my frame bag that wasn't like really accessible from when I was riding. And I could see like the inside the reception. It was like all big and shiny with the marble, like well lit. I was like, I don't get what this place is. I don't really care. It's just weird that it's there. I definitely don't belong here. I'm all smelly and sweaty and full of dust, and I'm just stopping there just to find exactly where my food is, and then I'll be on my way. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm here. And but yeah, it's funny because it's kind of feeling where you're like, okay, something's happening. I don't know why. I don't know what that
Yeah, a
is.
little surreal.
But it's completely surreal. And it reminds me of one
I
time
wonder
in.
what the hotel is
I'll
in the
look it
middle of
up.
nowhere.
I definitely want to look it up. And it reminds me of being in Kyrgyzstan in the middle of the night, also very sleep deprived, and it was dark, and I was it dark? No, it was not dark. It was day. I was riding, and I think I saw like a hotel, like a big hotel somewhere. And I know it's gonna sound crazy because it is crazy, but you need to understand that it was kind of like a hotel on an island in the middle of a river.
Wow.
And I thought that I
In the
saw that.
middle of the river.
Yeah. I mean, now that I say it, I realize that it's impossible. But that's what I saw. I was like riding in that valley, and I was looking down at that big river, and I was like, oh, it's funny. It seems like there's a building there in the middle of the river, and then I was like, okay, that's weird, but I need to like look it up someday. Of course, I didn't look it up, but the next year I was in that same valley, and it was dark, still racing, still racing Silk Road for the second. It was the second time, and I was in desperate need of some shelter because I was extremely tired, and it was raining, and I was cold, and I was wet, and I was like, oh yeah, but I remember that there's a hotel here somewhere in the middle of the river, and I kept looking for it, and it wasn't there because probably it's never been there.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's just like both times when I saw that hotel, and when I was looking for it, both times I was just completely out of it. You know, I was just like way too tired and way too sleep deprived. I was sleep deprived when I imagined it, and I was sleep deprived when I was looking for it. And I think like it's funny that a year apart, my mind was just like not functioning properly in the exact same part of the world.
Yeah. And it dug into a memory
Yeah,
of a ultra brain.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. Crazy what the mind does, especially sleep deprived. So
And so I think it fits well into the your question, because your question is like, it can't be real, and it was not real. Oh yeah,
yeah.
it can't be.
That's so funny. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for giving your time to Zone to Speak. So glad, to have you. And I want to wish you an amazing season. Have a wonderful time at Transbalkan, and maybe we can chat again at the end of the season.
Thanks a lot
Oh, and maybe I'll
for
see you at Via Games.
maybe, yeah. Hopefully I'll be available for that. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. Cool.
Bye.
And that's all for today's episode. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends.